Case File T08204. Subject: Disputed Parcel, Hulth County, Missouri. Submitted by R. Deaver, Licensed Land Surveyor, Third-Party Contractor. Date of Incident: October through November of last year. Status: Unresolved. Registry Notation: Physical boundary markers do not match any recorded instrument on file. Roy Deaver had been surveying rural properties for 19 years. He had untangled family disputes, corrected plat errors older than he was, and once found an entire quarter-acre that the county had simply forgotten to assign to anyone. He was not easily rattled. He was the kind of man who believed that the world was measurable, that every inch of earth, if you were patient enough, could be located, described, and filed. He believed that until October. The job came in through a local title company. A couple from Kansas City had found an old farmhouse online, made an offer, and the abstract search had come back with a cloud on the title. The parcel adjacent to the property, a narrow strip of land running along the western fence line, had no clear chain of ownership. It had been listed in county records as belonging to a holding company dissolved in 1972. But the holding company's formation documents referenced an original deed that no one could locate. Roy's job was straightforward: physically survey the disputed strip, take soil samples if needed, photograph any structures, and write a report. 3 days of work, maybe 4. He drove out on a Wednesday morning. The property was 40 minutes off the interstate, down a series of county roads that narrowed with each turn, until the last mile was barely 2 tire tracks through dry grass. The farmhouse the couple wanted to buy sat on a modest rise. It looked ordinary. White paint going gray. A barn that had given up standing straight and was slowly teaching itself to lean. A stock tank with no water in it. The disputed strip ran along the western edge of the property, separated from the main parcel by a wire fence that someone had replaced in the last few years. The wire was still bright. Everything else was old. Roy spent the first day setting benchmarks and running his total station. The property line on the recorded plat ran straight along the western fence. That was consistent. No surprises. He measured, photographed, noted the coordinates, and drove home. Normal day. He wrote up his preliminary notes, had dinner, and slept. The second day was when he found the structure. It sat roughly 40 feet west of the fence line, inside the disputed strip. A small building, maybe 10 feet by 12. Poured concrete foundation, wood frame walls, a metal roof that had rusted the color of dried blood. No windows. One door, facing east. He walked toward it, assuming it was a pump house or an old equipment shed. The kind of thing that gets forgotten when a farm changes hands. He photographed it from every angle before he touched it. The door had a lock, not a padlock on a hasp, a proper mortise lock, the old kind, set into the door itself. Roy tried the handle, expecting it to be frozen with rust. It wasn't. The mechanism turned smoothly, as though it had been oiled recently. The door swung outward. He looked inside. Empty. Swept clean. concrete floor, no equipment, no tools, no debris. Just a single bare bulb on a pull chain hanging from the ceiling. Roy pulled the chain. The bulb came on. He stepped back outside and looked around. There were no power lines running to the structure. None. He walked a complete circle around the building and confirmed it. No conduit, no overhead wire, no buried cable marker, no utility easement on the surrounding land. The bulb had no business working. He pulled the chain again. The bulb went down. He told himself there was a buried line he hadn't found yet. A battery somewhere. An explanation. He photographed the interior, noted the anomaly in his field log, and kept working. That afternoon, he located what he believed was the original survey stake for the disputed parcel, a piece of iron rebar driven into the earth at the northwest corner of the strip. He flagged it and used his GPS unit to record the coordinates. When he got back to his truck and synced the data, he found something wrong. The coordinates didn't match the plat by about 4 feet. He rechecked his equipment. He ran the measurement again. Same result. The physical stake was 4 feet east of where the plaque said it should be. He assumed he'd made an error, recalibrated. Came back the next morning. The third morning, the stake was in a different location. Not dramatically different, not so far that you'd notice from a distance. But Roy had photographed it, flagged it with orange tape, and entered the GPS coordinates. When he returned the next morning, the flag was gone. Not just moved, gone entirely. And the rebar was 3 feet south of where he had marked it. The soil around it was undisturbed. There was no depression where it had been. It was as though it had always been there, in the new location. Roy considered that someone had moved it. Vandalism, maybe, or interference from the seller. He drove to the county recorder's office and asked to see the original deeds for the disputed strip. The clerk spent 40 minutes searching and came back looking apologetic. The earliest instrument she could find for the parcel was a warranty deed, dated March 14th, 1887. Roy asked if she could tell him more about the grantor, the person or entity who had originally sold the property. She read him the name from the deed. He didn't recognize it. She said the grantor's address was listed as the parcel itself. Roy asked her to repeat that. She did. The grantor's address, the place the seller claimed to reside at the time of the sale, was the same 40-foot strip of land being conveyed. The seller had listed their home address as the property they were selling. He asked when Holt County was incorporated. She told him 1927. Roy stared at her. The deed was from 1887. He asked how land in Holt County could have been deeded 40 years before the county existed. She didn't have an answer for that. He went back to the property that afternoon. He needed to re-photograph the stake in its new position and document the discrepancy. He drove the rutted track to the western fence line and got out of his truck. The stake was where he'd found it that morning. He photographed it. Then he looked west toward the small concrete building. The door was closed. He had left it open. He specifically remembered leaving it open because the interior light troubled him, and he had wanted to see it from a distance, to see whether any wire or conduit was visible at a different angle. He had left the door propped open with a rock. The rock was still there, but the door was closed and latched. Roy stood outside the building for a long time. He did not go inside again. He photographed it from the same angles as before, gathered his equipment, drove to the end of the county road, and sat in his truck with the engine running. He called the title company and told them he couldn't complete the survey. He filed a partial report with the registry instead, flagging the parcel for anomalous boundary behavior and unexplained utility access. He noted that the property line, as physically manifested on the ground, did not remain in the location recorded by any instrument. He noted that the structure on the disputed strip showed no connection to the electrical grid, but demonstrated active power. He noted that the building could be locked from the inside without anyone inside to lock it. He included his GPS logs, his photographs, and the deed information. The registry sent a follow-up team in December. The team found the building. They confirmed the anomalous power readings. They measured the stake and found it in a fifth location, one that matched neither Roy's measurements nor the original plat. What the team did not find was Roy's orange survey flag. What the team did not find was any of the soil disturbance photographs he had included in his submission. What the team did find, inside the building, on the swept concrete floor, was a single strip of orange plastic flagging tape, folded neatly, as though left there by someone who wanted to be sure it was safe. Case file TR 8204 remains open. The disputed parcel has not been assigned to any owner. The couple from Kansas City withdrew their offer on the farmhouse 2 weeks after Roy filed his report. They did not give a reason. The registry does not recommend visiting the western boundary of the property at dusk. The lock on the door still turns smoothly. The words, "belief,"